This month, Gustavo Pandiani arrived in Trinidad and Tobago to take up the role as Argentine Ambassador. No stranger to this region, Pandiani wants to expand the relations between Trinidad and Tobago and Argentina beyond the energy sector and beyond trade relations. Sport is also a focal point of his work here. As both nations mark 60 years of diplomatic relations, we talk about the bilateral relationship between both countries. We also talk about Argentina's role in this region. And we also discuss one of the most famous Argentinians on the world stage. Not Pope Francis, but Lionel Messi. Ambassador Gustavo Pandiani, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. You come at an interesting time to become ambassador of Argentina to Trinidad and Tobago. Both countries are marking 60 years of diplomatic relations. What type of task do you have on your hands, given 6 decades of relations between both countries?
Well, first, let me thank you for the invitation. I feel kind of coming back home. I had been ambassador in the Caribbean before, and to be ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago is a special challenge for me because, as you know, you are one of the most important countries among CARICOM members. For Argentina, the relationship with Trinidad and Tobago is a historical relationship. We have been here for 6 decades. Our friendship goes beyond trade. It goes to the political side, to the economic side, to the cooperation side. And my main challenge here is to strengthen those links, to find new areas of cooperation. And because of my personal style as an ambassador, I'm sure I'm going to be doing a lot of work together with your local community on sports, arts, and culture.
All right, let's talk a little bit about strengthening the relations. What did you have in mind, given that there have been 6 decades of trade relations between both countries?
Of course, one of the main areas we are ready to work with you and cooperate, as we have been doing during many, many years now, is energy. You know, you are one of the most important countries in the Caribbean in terms of gas and oil. Argentina is a very important gas and oil producer as well. You know, we are in the middle of transition in global terms. So the challenges for countries such as ours is to try to adapt to the transition without losing the opportunities we have now. You know, sometimes I feel from other parts of the world this message that we need to leave from old traditional production of energy, and I don't think that is the case. You know, we have the opportunity now, we have the resources now. Trinidad and Tobago is very important in terms of gas and oil. Argentina is very important in terms of gas and oil. So we need to get together, try to help each other in terms of keeping what we have and preparing for the new world. But the new world is ahead. Now this is reality. This is the situation we have. And I understand the worries of some other part of the world in terms of the energy transition that we need. But we will take our time in order to be able to produce and distribute income in our countries. You know, it's very important that we produce the resources, we distribute the resources among our peoples, and for that we need to keep the resources, because that is what we have.
I get the feeling that you're saying that while the fossil fuel era is still here, we have to make, both Trinidad and Tobago and Argentina have to make the best use of it to ensure that economic prosperity is achieved by both nations. However, you are not denying that there is an energy transition and a need to move to greener forms of energy. What does that partnership, that new partnership between both nations have to look like in order to move to things like green hydrogen?
Right. Well, the reality, you cannot deny it. The transition is on its way. But it's going to take long. It's not a transition that it happens in 1 or 2 years. You know, it will take time. So in the meanwhile, it's important that we don't rush decisions, because we have the resources now, we need the resources now, and the world needs the resources now.
But what does that partnership look like, Mr. Ambassador?
Because of the world is every day a little more global, and because of the war in Ukraine, the traditional resources from Europe in terms of energy are not there anymore. I mean, we have an opportunity in the Caribbean and Latin America to replace those traditional sources of energy to Europe and to other countries in the north. So what we could do together, Argentina and Trinidad and Tobago, is to try to organize ourselves in political terms, in economic terms, in order to be able to replace those resources, those countries that were producing the energy of Europe, because there is an opportunity there. I don't like the idea of seeing a war as an opportunity, but it is somehow. So Argentina, Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago, Brazil are countries that produce within Latin America and the Caribbean a lot of energy. If we do it together, if we do get together and organize ourselves, we will have more power in order to negotiate with the other partners.
Do you see the willingness politically from Brazil, Argentina, and Trinidad and Tobago? Because you mentioned
Indeed.
those three countries.
Indeed. I see it. I see the conditions, I see the opportunities, and I see the political will. Of course, every country, manages its own policies. We are sovereign nations, but cooperation is the way to go. Each of us is not going to be able to save itself in this very competitive world unless we get, together and try to coordinate certain policies and certain strategies.
It's very interesting to hear you say this, Mr. Ambassador. You are a career diplomat. You've spent several decades in different countries.
Right.
You're a foreign policy advisor and expert. And I get the feeling that you're saying that if we in this part of the world don't take care of ourselves and we continuously depend on what's happening in Europe, and then there's instability in Europe and instability in the Middle East, given the different wars,
right.
This is an opportunity for us to reorganize our own selves, to take care of our people in this part of the world.
Absolutely. You put it exactly the way I was thinking about it. And it's not only in the energy side, it's in general, We have two options for the future: to be just providers, mere providers, or to be partners. I'd rather be partners with Europe, with United States, with China, because partnership is a question of equality. If it goes okay, both sides benefit. If it goes wrong, you take a risk, both of us. If we are only mere providers, we are always on the weak side of the equation. So the challenge for Trinidad and Tobago, the challenge for Argentina, the challenge for Brazil, for other countries, Guyana, is basically to convince the rest of the world that we want and we are able to be partners. But partners mean equal partners. We have the natural resources. The oil and gas of Trinidad and Tobago is Trinidad and Tobago's oil and gas. So you own the resources. Then in the negotiation with the rest of the world that needs your resources, you could be a partner or a provider. My experience after 30 years of diplomacy is that if you are just a mere provider, you are in the weak side. You can be replaced, for example, for another provider. If you are a partner, let's say through joint ventures, and you take care of that partnership, if it is yours, because it is yours, it's going to be a power position for your country.
Coming up after the break, opportunities exist between Argentina and Trinidad and Tobago, but the ambassador insists.
Our challenge for both countries is to find concrete ways and concrete opportunities to be closer.
Let's talk a little bit about the expansion of trade relations, because this is something that you have prioritized for your ambassadorship while you are here in Trinidad and Tobago, beyond the energy sector.
Right.
You mentioned culture, you mentioned the arts. What trade relations are you looking at in particular for this expansion?
First, let me give you a big picture. For me, as an ambassador, trade is very important, but it's not the only important thing. Our relationship is a historical relationship, and it has more than trade and investment. Of course, trade and investment is going to be a very important part of the portfolio. We are providing the world with food and energy. That's what we do in Argentina. We export most of our production in terms of food security, food safety, and at the same time with energy resources, all types of energy resources. Together with the CARICOM, we have been working in trying to integrate a little more our economies. Sometimes I feel Caribbean and Latin America, because I'm not saying anymore Latin America and the Caribbean as a traditional way.
We appreciate that.
Caribbean and Latin America, we need a lot of challenges pending to integrate really, So if you see the connections we have in terms of, airlines and trade, we still, I would say, pending some of the challenges we haven't solved. Now,
what are some of those challenges, if you don't mind me asking?
Basically, not to have all the connections we need. We should have more connections. If I want to go back to Argentina from here, I have to go to Miami or I have to go to Panama. That's the only way. And it doesn't make sense to me to go all the way back to Miami, to go back all the way south to Argentina, right? I have to go 4 hours that way in order to come 9 hours the other way.
So you're pointing at direct flights between Argentina and Trinidad and Tobago. Those logistics are obviously very challenging to overcome, but you believe that they can be overcome?
I think so.
So you would like to see direct flights between Argentina and Trinidad?
Direct flights or flights going and coming from the south. Let's say you used to have some flights from Colombia, Brazil. Those are countries that you could connect to Argentina through them. So I would be so happy as ambassador if I see that those options are here. Of course, we have the Copa connection, which is a very important connection for us because, as you know, Panama City is a hub, very important for the Caribbean. You could go to Panama, and then from there you can go everywhere. But we need more. We need more connection because with the connection comes more trade, more business opportunities, more investment opportunities, more tourism. I was having a conversation with your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Brown, good friend of mine and a gentleman. He loves football as much as I do. And we were talking about those challenges, that we need to increase the connections in order to increase trade, investment, tourism. We have a lot of tourists going out Argentina, going everywhere in the world. Why we cannot have more of them coming to Trinidad and Tobago? We need more connections. We need more promotion of Trinidad and Tobago in South America.
Is that a priority?
I think so. Yes, I think so. I think it's important for us because it creates extra resources that we need. For both countries, it's important that we connect better. We have a more concrete and pragmatic connection in terms of trade. It's again, logistics. We need more logistics. Sometimes it's difficult to send your merchandise to the Caribbean because you have to go all the way again to Miami or even to Panama again. Those are challenges, and I'm ready to face them.
Do you feel, though, because when we talk about trade relations and having a direct flight between Argentina and Trinidad and Tobago, direct flights between any two countries,
right,
really, you have to have the capacity and the human capital
right,
between. You don't want to be flying half.
And the regulatory
framework,
right?
Right. Yeah, I was going to get to that. So do you feel that those things exist at the moment or have to be built?
Well, Argentina is facing, as we speak, a reform in terms of our regulation for air transportation. We are opening it up. It's called open skies. So we are deregulating all the major routes. We are getting more flights all over the...
That includes Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, it could be. It could be. Why not? The question always is why not? And we need to try. And if you don't get there as soon as probably we want, it's a work in progress, For us, Trinidad and Tobago in particular, and CARICOM in general, is a very important part of our strategy to relate with the region, I personally was very involved. I was a deputy minister for Latin America and the Caribbean back in Argentina, and I had great experiences with Trinidad and Tobago working together in CELAC, working together in the OAS, You are a very important part of this region. And sometimes because of language barriers, sometimes because of geographical barriers, we see each other kind of far away. But we are not. Physically, we are not. So our challenge for both countries is to find concrete ways and concrete opportunities to be closer. And one of those, because I truly believe that diplomacy is not only an activity you do between two governments, it's an activity you do between two peoples. people to people, together with government to government cooperation is very important. Sports, culture, art, cricket, football. I'm ready to start working with those partners here. I already had my first meeting with the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. We have a surprise, beautiful surprise in the framework of Copa America. You know, Copa America is coming up. So on July the 9th, we will screen for the first time in the Caribbean the last and most beautiful movie about the behind-the-scenes story of the last World Cup championship for Argentina. And it's kind of a story of Messi, Leo Messi.
Right. 2022 FIFA World Cup.
And we're going to do it together with The Guardian. So we found the right partner for the great opportunity.
Coming up next, as the region faces several crises, from climate change to regional security.
We need a regional approach. And in order to be efficient with a regional approach, we need to be able to share information, we need to be able to cooperate.
You're a football fanatic, so you led the conversation down this way. So let's talk a little bit about football. How did that conversation go with the TTFA, and how do you feel a successful nation in the sport of football can help countries within the Caribbean region like Trinidad and Tobago in the sport of football?
Well, I have a lot of experience in that area because I was ambassador to Barbados in 2018 for a couple of years, and we developed a great cooperation in terms of football and in cricket, because we could probably help you out with football. Well, we need help with cricket. In Argentina, we have some cricket. And of course, this is the mecca of cricket. So cooperation is always a two-way highway. Cooperate means I help you, you help me.
What does that help look like between, let's just take football for now.
In terms of football, we will have our first event on July the 9th. I just had a conversation this morning with my dear friend, Russell Latapi, former football star of Trinidad and Tobago, who is a very good friend of mine. He's coming, in fact, to Trinidad and Tobago in a couple of days. We will get together to find more concrete opportunities to do promotion of football. And the end of the road, if everything works fine, is to take the national team, the Trinidad and Tobago national team, to Argentina to train, as we did with Barbados in 2019. You know, that is the end of the road. I remember that we took the under-17 national team to practice in Argentina. They stayed at Boca Juniors, which is one of probably the most important clubs in Argentina. It was a life-changing opportunity for those young players. That is exactly what I'm trying to do, and that is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you talk about life-changing opportunity for young footballers here in the Caribbean region and Trinidad and Tobago, where we are. A life-changing opportunity with someone like Lionel Messi visiting the Caribbean can pump energy into football in this region that is badly in need of a re-energized framework. Is that something that is possibly on the cards?
Well, that is my dream, as probably is yours. But you know, Leo Messi, it's probably a very difficult cookie to get, but at least we will start having his movie. It's an inspiring story. You know, it's a movie not only about football, it's a movie about how you overcome the challenges life put on you. You know, his story is a beautiful story. He was a little kid from a very humble family, and now he's probably a superstar. And I think, you know, we need to work together in order to have that opportunity. But independently of Leo, as you know, as an individual, we have a history of football that we want to share with you. You know, Argentina has been 3 times world champions. I had the privilege in my life of being at the 3 finals, 78, 86, and the last one in Qatar. So I feel privileged because of that. But I know that you have a lot of football in Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, last Sunday, it was my first Sunday, I had been here for just a week, I already play football here. So I went to Chaguanas, and I had my first game. I really love getting involved with the local football. I went to see Mr. Edwards, who is the president of the Football Association. It's going to just give me a little time, but we will have a splendid cooperation in terms of sports. But I insist, we could help you a little bit with football, but we need help from you. We need to learn from Trinidad and Tobago and from the West Indies, for example, in the field of cricket. So I'm ready to start both ways at the same time.
That in itself sort of ties back into what we were talking about in terms of bilateral partnerships. In bilateral relations, we often sort of overlook sport as a transportation device between both countries. You're talking about cricketers and cricketing expertise traveling to Argentina and educating and helping the game across in Argentina. That in itself is a form of not only tourism, but also bilateral relations, which I want to get back to now, Mr. Ambassador. He's a huge football fan, so a huge sports fan. So we digressed a little bit there, but I do want to get back on, you've served in a number of roles, even before you landed in the Caribbean. You've been serving Latin America and the Caribbean. You've served in Barbados. You've served in Dominica. So you know the Caribbean region very well.
Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia.
Yeah, you know the Caribbean very, very well.
Right.
Given the challenges, not just climate change, and I know that you're also a very big, you also have major concerns about climate change for the region, but this regional security of the Caribbean, what do you think in all your years of expertise and knowing the region, what are the priorities or the greatest challenges we face as a region at this present moment?
Well, it's a difficult question because it's not a simple answer to that question. But I could say that the new threats the world is facing, of course, are also in the Caribbean and in Latin America. You know, the new threats are non-traditional threats. You know, the trafficking in general in terms of drugs, people, arms, weapons. All those trafficking networks that are operating within the region are probably one of the main concerns of our governments. And it's not an easy task to deal with that because it's an international problem. You know, it's not a problem that one country has. You can fix your country, but then you have another country next to you with the same situation. And normally these networks of crime, because that is where they are. It
is a network. Yeah.
It's a network of criminals all over the world working together, trafficking, all type of things. We need a common approach. And I have been working in the framework of the OAS, the Organization of American States, and they have 2 or 3 groups, task forces, trying to understand how to go about it together. Because if you do it individually, it's not going to work. We need a regional approach. And in order to be efficient with a regional approach, we need to be able to share information. We need to be able to cooperate. You know, I don't want to get into details because it's a delicate matter for a diplomat, as you know. But if we do not work together in terms of the regional cooperation against crime, we're going to lose the battle.
How do you feel, given the news over the last week, you now live in Trinidad and Tobago, that Russian tanks could be on its way to Venezuela and Venezuelan waters? As a career diplomat, how concerning is this moment in history for you?
Well, it's very concerning. You know, the war is a reality. We are not talking about a theoretical war. We are in the middle of a war in Europe, in the heart of Europe. The invasion of Russia to Ukraine is something that my country condemned from the very beginning. Our view is that it's an illegal invasion. It shouldn't have been.
That sort of violence coming to the Caribbean region, how concerning is that for you?
Well, I hope it's not the case. But unfortunately, wars such as that one tend to go everywhere, you know. I'm coming from Switzerland. I was ambassador to Switzerland until a few days ago. And in the heart of Europe, that is Bern, the capital of Switzerland, everybody was really concerned about the war as if the war was in the next corner, you know, in your neighborhood. It's a reality. You feel it.
You talk about regional collaboration. I just wonder if you believe that now is a time for parts of the Americas, like where you come from, to now lift its voice, given that there is a looming threat, and there has been a looming threat even before Christmas last year, of Venezuela and Guyana, which has been sort of bubbling.
Well, we always target for the peace, the peaceful solution, you know. Argentina has a tradition in terms of supporting all peace processes around the world. We do not believe in the force, the action of force, as a way to solve your diplomatic controversies. So the case you mentioned between Venezuela and Guyana, the case you mentioned in Europe, everywhere we need, first of all, to stop violence. That is the first thing everybody needs to raise their voice for. You know, we need to stop the violence and try to find a negotiated solution to those problems. It's not an easy task. Of course, it's not an easy task. But first, we need to stop, violence. A lot of people are dying every day. And every country has to contribute to stop that. Then, of course, you have the multilateral field. And we are a very, Trinidad and Tobago and Argentina, we have the same feeling and the same approach in terms of multilateralism. We believe in the multilateral world to solve the problems. We believe in the United Nations framework. We believe in the hemispheric network. We have a lot of forum to try to find solutions. But for that, we need to be active, we need to participate, and we need to commit.
Ambassador Gustavo Pandiani, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here, and let me just use this opportunity to say thank you to the Trinidad and Tobago people because the way they received me here. I'm a very humble ambassador. My feet are on the ground, and I look forward to working with each Trinitarian and each person from your country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you.